Hello, Altuğ.
Hello,
Welcome to Game High.
Mona. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
being invited.
And thanks for accepting our invite despite being so sick this week.
Yeah. It was a bit bad in the beginning of the week, but thanks God, I feel much better at the moment, so everything
Yeah,
is
hopefully
fine.
you're recovering.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Altuğ is a game lead designer at Joy Game, and he is also,
Yes.
I can say, you've been instructor in so many universities like Bahçeşehir, Izmir University before that, and I think many universities in Turkey, you just traveled around Turkey so much and taught
Yeah.
so many students. So I think this talk would be a very good opportunity for students who want to learn from an experienced instructor of a university here
Thank you
about
very
game
much.
design, right?
Yeah, I hope they will find it useful and enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. So it's up to you, and you can share your presentation if you
Yeah.
have. You want
Yeah.
to introduce yourself a bit, or you want to,
Yeah.
I don't know,
I
say
will just,
recordings, and then we
I
can
will
go to the
just,
presentation.
okay. So here's my presentation. Um, I will not uh, expand it to the whole screen because I think my slides are big and readable. And also I have some little notes here in the notes section, and that's good for me to, just keep my mind collected while I'm doing the presentation. So I apologize if anyone dislikes that, but I think it will make the flow a bit better in general. So, well, what I will talk about today is like you see the headline says like 7 steps to become a game designer. And my presentation is not really about details in game design or how you design a game or some keywords, etc. But it's a bit more about the mindset or the attitude that one should adopt as a game designer. So I say should adopt, but it doesn't necessarily mean these are very strict rules. But what I feel or saw in my own experience is that the 7 things that I will point out today uh, usually make me think that when I see these attributes in persons, I just feel like they are more suited to the job, maybe. Um, and it's also a bit my own experience. So I will go through these steps one by one, and I will hope they enlighten you and give you an idea about how you can become a game designer if you wish to become one. So this is basically what I'm going to talk about. Um, so first, let me just very briefly talk about myself. Gunnar already mentioned that I'm a lead game designer at Joy Game. I can add to this that I also run a game studio in Izmir, uh, which is called Funjitsu. We have started with operations a short time before, so my daily life is at the moment split between these two sides. So it's design all the time, all throughout the day, and I taught game design and monetization design also at a lot of universities. But I was at the Bahçeşehir University for the last 3 years. Before I taught at Izmir University, at Izmir University of Economics, and at the Eastern Mediterranean University, also in Northern Cyprus. So as a professor, let's say, or at universities, I have like 20 years, more than 20 years experience in game design. I think I teach it since 2007, which means 15 years. So, okay, that's not bad as an experience. So, and recently I decided to completely switch my career from academic to game design. And I enjoy it a lot, I must say. It's really exciting to be in the industry and make games and try to get success. So that's beautiful. So far about me. And I live in Turkey, by the way. Okay, let's get to the 7 steps to become a game designer. And my first step here is very simple. And people ask how to become a game designer. And what I can tell you basically is just start making games now, right now. You know, don't wait for an opportunity in the industry, or don't wait for a moment where you can finally start to make games, but just start making them. So that's very easy, actually. You just have to search for an idea. That can be anything, anything, a story that you like, a game that you like to play, something that inspires you, and find this idea and then just start making it. Make a prototype of it. You don't have to use very high quality or expensive material for this. You don't need a computer at all. It doesn't need to be digital. You can find some paper, pen, any material that fits you, and just start to prototype it, you know, just create the assets for the game. Write a rule book if you want. And then once you have this thing, you know, start playing it yourself, pretend to be 2 or 3 people and see how it works. Then maybe you can invite people and play together, and then you can refine the thing as you play with the people, and just keep iterating until it has really become something joyful to play. And one thing you should know is that there is a platform to share your games for every kind of material. Yeah, if you make a board game, you can upload it to board game related websites. If it's a card game, you can upload it there. But the point is that you should not wait for an opportunity to come to you. You can make a game right now. You don't have to wait for it. And there is all the material in the world that you need. It's already next to you. So the first thing to become a game designer is actually start making games. Don't wait. It's not in the future. It's here. You can already start with it now, and make this as often as possible. Make it your lifestyle. I mean, you want to be a game designer, so finish one game, start with the other, share it with people. When you come to conventions like this, you can then bring your prototypes and invite people to play. And it's nice to have games also as a facilitator of communication between you and your peers. So just start making them. You don't need to know how to code. You don't need to know how to draw. You don't need to know anything about making games to make games. You just have to start. So this is really important. And in my belief, one of the shortest paths to become a game designer is just making games whenever you can with whatever material you have at hand. And you can upload your stuff anywhere. There are websites or there are conventions where you can go and show your games. And if you learn the other skills, you can try to digitalize these games. So there is always option to improve, but start making games now. Don't wait for the future. It's now that you should act. This is the first point. The second point, which I believe is important, it's to get a degree, get a university degree. It's important because in the industry, people will ask for it. Usually, you will hear a lot of people saying things like, "Oh, they don't teach us anything at universities, and we're studying for nothing. I wasted 4 years at university and I didn't learn anything," and blah, blah, blah. And you hear that from a lot of people. Maybe not everywhere, but I definitely hear these things. So there's this kind of we waste time when we study, but um, I think it will be a surprise for you when you hear those people who say these things. When you get into a job interview, it will be these people who, denounce the importance of university. It will be then these people who will ask you if you have a university degree. And if you don't have it, they will probably reject your application. So yeah, don't buy into this. People say a lot of things about universities, but in the end, it's really important for you to have a degree, not only because to enter the game industry, but let's say it didn't work out for you. It was just a bad experience. You would still have a degree with which you can then try to build another career for yourself. But you should definitely try to study and get your degree. Uh, Often people, they speak against universities because of some sort of an anti-intellectualism, or it's just like how people like to talk about universities, but don't buy into this, as I said. Of course, the thing is now is that in the past there were no game design departments or faculties, so you could not really get a degree in game design. But that has also changed. Today there are so many universities, faculties, departments who offer degrees in game development and game design. So you can even study, you can actually really study it right now even, which is nice. So if you're interested in this topic, you should definitely think about studying it at such a department as well. Today it will bring you an advantage because people will see, oh, he graduated from a game design school. So it will be probably a reason for you to be preferred over other people as well. So I recommend that. And finally, one thing that I want to say is also people are often in a hurry. They think like, oh, I'm already 19 years old. I'm so old. The world is running away. And as if when they study, things are running away from that. But nothing runs away. I assure you that nothing runs away. I was 33 years old when I decided to be a game designer. Okay. So it's a very late age, actually, when you think about it. But nothing ran away. All my knowledge to that until that point, my experience, I could use it. So be cool, stay calm, and just graduate. Don't force it. Don't force yourself into a double life, like start to work too early while you are in the university. If you really need it financially, etc., okay, but you should also focus on your study and just finish it, and after that the opportunities will come. So nothing runs away. That also, this is what I want to say at this point. So I have a third point here, and this is about, as you see, is a typical writing mistake in my slide. Instead of this designer, they write this singer, or something. I don't know even how to spell this. But that's really not a good sign when you have someone in your interview or when you see someone's resume and they write the word design in the wrong way. So where do I want to get at this? I think what is really very important for a game designer is that they are in an excellent command of language, uh, oral or written. And I'm not only talking about your mother tongue, uh, but also about English. Your English really needs to be good. But beyond that, I think you should also be very good in your mother tongue, you know, knowing how to write, knowing how to spell in general. Um, because I think uh, most of what you will do in your job as a game designer is rooted in language and communication, because you have to write design documents, you have to write manuals, you have to write rule books, you will hold project meetings, team talks, you will come to places like this and talk about your experience and stuff like that. So you should really be someone who can get their messages across in a very clear and understandable way. Uh, and I think this really requires good language skills, uh, you know, knowledge about how to express yourself, finding the right words. And I think this is also important because if you are good with language, it makes probably easier for you also to understand, to grasp, to listen. So I definitely see good language skills as a very important uh, part of design and a designer's personality. You have to be really in very good command. I mean, look at it just when you enter an app store, for example, and read the description of a game, and so everything in the about a game, not only the game itself, but its documentation, its details in the app store, everything matters. And so being of good command of language is really very important. And there is also this tendency, uh, which is, I think, related to language here. Um, People tend to blame others, like, oh, he doesn't understand what I say, and that's also a wrong attitude in design. When people don't understand something, what you're saying, your task as a designer is to get back to yourself and say, like, okay, I think I couldn't express it well enough. If people get it wrong, if people don't understand it, you cannot blame those who don't understand it, because you basically work for them. Your task is to make them understand. So you can't say things like, "Oh, they're just fools; they don't get it," etc., etc. You have to get back and say, "Okay, how can I formulate this in order to make them understand it?" So I'll always have to return, find better ways to express things. So this is also why a good command of language is important, because sometimes being in good command of language is about, uh, very detailed, fine, long expressions. But sometimes it's about finding the shortest, clearest way. And to make it clear, to make it short, to make it tangible while short, it's also a language skill. Knowing how to curb it down and keep it at that level is also a language skill. So definitely anything about language is very important to you. As a game designer, I benefit a lot from reading books, novels, poetry. It all actually helps me a lot to find the, let's say, right expressions in my documents as well. So be a language proficient person. That's very important. Okay, so let's get to my next point, which is number 4, and it's connected already to what I said about language. Not only play games, also read. A lot of people in design, they think it's just enough if they play a lot of games, they know everything about design. And so I played this game, I played that game. And the thing is, okay, I'm a designer. I also played all these games, but that's not enough. Yeah, it's not enough to play a lot of games. It's not enough to, I don't know, spend 6 hours on WoW or LOL. That doesn't really make you a designer. That makes you maybe a good player. It makes you a player with references in their mind about a variety of games, but it's not yet enough. As a designer, you do something else. Of course, as a designer, you play, but you basically you work with a completely different vocabulary. It's when you're a very good avid player and talk with your friends, you usually don't discuss the games in design terms. You just say, wow, this was cool. I really loved this place where I could kill the monsters and blah, blah, blah. So you talk more about experience and you use a daily language there. But in game design, we refer to another vocabulary. We have to explain the thing where a player says, wow, that was cool. We have to explain this experience from within game design terms. So this term made the player feel like this. It was good conflict that made it work. We kept the illusion of winnability alive. That's why they enjoyed the end of the game, etc., etc. So we use terms, we use concepts, and it's very important to learn these. And for that, I would definitely recommend that you build a design library in your house, not only a collection of games, but have a bookshelf, for God's sake, yeah, and have books around you and look into them. And as a designer, it's not, yeah, you can of course just buy books that say introduction to game design, blah, blah, blah. That's nice, but keep it broader, because when you're a designer, you talk about everything in the game, and that's graphics, that's coding, that's level design, how to set up the light, what colors to pick, etc. So you really have to deal with everything. And you can, of course, leave it to some of the experts in your team. But it's always a good idea to know what concepts they use when they do their job. So therefore, I believe it's always good to have a library at home where you have the kind of introduction to blah, 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 introduction to everything. Have a book on introduction to architecture, introduction to game design, introduction to sculpting, industrial design, color theory, film directing, photography, script writing, everything on the art and design related jobs. The introductory book, at least, should be in your shelf, so that when you don't know to express something to your artist, let's say, just, let's say there's a model and you don't like something about it and want to explain it. So a book about sculpting could be a good idea, because you look into it and you could just say like, okay, the posture needs to be more like this, the gesture needs to be more like this, etc. So you can learn their lingo and express yourself better to people. And also at some point when you read these points, these books, it helps you to address the problems better, because it's a difference to say, I don't know, something doesn't work for me, instead compared to, I think the posture is not dramatic enough and it does not reflect the motivation of the character. So it's completely different explanations. In one, you basically just say, I don't like it and I don't know why. In the other one, you say it's not correct because of this, and that helps people. So being aware of everything to some extent is a good thing for you. So you can also have a book on basic programming concepts, on project management. So have these around you. And also, I think having books on everything is always interesting, because sometimes you just don't know what your new game will be. You struggle to find ideas, and then suddenly you have this handbook on how to plant a bonsai tree, for example. It's just in your library because you bought it, thought it's interesting. So suddenly you have the idea, okay, wow, cool, okay, I make a game on planting bonsai trees. Now you have found a theme. Or I don't know, in my library, I have like books on forensics, books on mechanical engineering. It's like a library of its own, really. So it's nice. Books about minerals, books about this. Just having it around is good. Of course, today we have the internet, Wikipedia, etc. But what I see is, read, not only play, and have your basic resources around you. There are also some good websites that you can follow, where professionals share their insights on blogs or featured articles. So one of them, for example, is Gamma Sutra, where people who make the games who you love to play, they are frequently there writing about their experiences as designers. So that's one of the sites you should definitely sign up if you can. And there's Game Dev and a few more. So also follow these websites, and set a day for yourself. Say something like, every Thursday I will spend an hour there on Gamma Sutra, and see what new articles are there. Read through the blogs. There's a lot of material that will help you. Indeed, today we have books about game design, but in the past there weren't such books. And basically all I learned, or most of what I learned it on Gamma Sutra. So I really recommend that website as well. So let's get to another point, which is related to a bit what I said earlier. So we're no longer gamers when we make design. We're game designers, and that makes really a difference. As I said, we speak with a certain vocabulary. The people on our team, they speak with a certain vocabulary. So we have to be aware of the vocabulary of the terms and concepts that we use in our professions. Very important to learn them. One thing as a game designer is that we are no longer a gamer, and this means we are now designing experiences for others. So we are no longer making games that necessarily please ourselves. Now we make things that have to please others. And that's also very important, because as a designer, your taste as a person, as a gamer, does not matter. Think about me, for example. I'm a hyper casual game designer, but normally I really just like to play simulation games on PC. I like to play, I don't know, Rise of Nations, Civilizations, stuff like that. But the games I make are about, I don't know, feeding animals, caring about babies. Uh, I don't know, it has nothing to do with what I really like to play. But still, as a designer, I know my work. I know how to make what I know what to be careful about when I make a game about feeding babies, because I know the hyper casual style, I know the hyper casual genres, I know the audience, I know how other companies create games and what they do. And I basically forget myself and say like, okay, well, what should I do with this in order to really um, connect to the audience that I want this game to play? Uh, there was a guy who made the Age of Empires game, I think, and he said something like, uh, if you make a game that you like only for yourself, then be prepared to buy a million copies of these games if you want it to be profitable, which is totally true. I mean, if you make it really totally for yourself and for your own taste, you probably do not create a marketable game, so because this is also about selling the game, and you cannot simply take yourself as the only reference in the world. So it's really important to notice this. We're basically on the other side of the screen, and we do now observe how people play our game, and they may play it totally different than we envisioned. uh, they may not like things that we think everybody likes. So we have to be very careful that we are on the other side of the screen and create things for others to enjoy. And so we should also learn to take pleasure in enjoying what others enjoy. It's not about us, in game design. It's really not about us. It's, as a gamer you can demand things, but as a game designer you have to realize, I'm on the other side. I'm using terms to construct an experience that other people will say like, wow, this is cool. So you have to understand that you are no longer a gamer, and that you have to resort to a professional design vocabulary, that you look at games now in terms of design. And this is also very important to understand. Um, so forgetting and retreating, putting yourself in the background and being an advocate of the player's experience. As a game designer, you cannot simply say, if they don't like my game, they are stupid people anyway. And, then if they don't like my game, if they don't understand my game, then they should not play it. I don't need them, etc. That's totally wrong. As I said before, there was this, if they don't understand my game, they should not play it. Probably they are mentally, they are not good enough. It's so wrong. That's basically just another way to say I'm not a game designer. And when I hear people saying this, especially in design classes, I'm like, oh my God, okay, I have really to teach a lot to this person about game design. So um, you have to make sure they understand you. You have to respect when they don't enjoy it. It's not because they're stupid or they don't know how to enjoy life. It's basically just that's not what they want from a game. So you have to find out what do they want from the game, and do your job. Also, one thing that I often see in game design or in companies is that when you discuss design with people, and then there will be this one person who in the discussion, when something that he wants to be in the game, when you say no, that's not a good idea, it will not work because of this, then that person will say, I know because I played a lot of games. Okay, so basically he refers or she refers to the fact that she played a lot of games, but he or she cannot explain in design terms why she wants this thing to be in the game. So it means the person is not cannot really use the design vocabulary. She just or he just wants that thing to be in the game no matter what, because it's probably something that this person created and just wants it to be there. It's a bit selfish, etc. And when they cannot defend their this design decisions in design terms, then they will say, I played a lot of game and I know that players liked it. So that is as if I never played some games, and is as if I never know what people like. So it's so much out of context. It's had really nothing to do with design. So when you hear people just saying these kind of things, it's usually a red flag. In most cases, the person probably just doesn't want to discuss anything, and it just wants to impose her own tastes onto the project. And it's not convenient to work with these people, in my personal experience, because it's so irrational. It has nothing to do with the job we're doing. We cannot insist on things, and we cannot defend ourselves by saying, I played a lot of game and I know the players. Everyone knows them. Everyone played games, yeah. So in the end, a game designer is not simply a player or a gamer, and is not someone who can explain everything based on her personal taste, but is someone who can explain and justify design decisions with design terms and concepts, not gamer lingo. So this is also another important attitude, I would say. Then another thing which is actually part of in the first thing what I said in like making games, but it's always important as a game designer to adopt a hands-on approach. So I hear a lot of people, people like to talk about their game ideas. Oh, I have this idea, Altuğ. Can I tell it? And I'm like, I don't know. That's not really, I don't want to listen, What I really want is to see the thing in action. So at least a sketch on paper, but something that would be better is to have a prototype of it, a very simple, playable, maybe tabletop prototype. Because that explains the mechanics, the systems, everything much better. When people have ideas and they are just here, it basically means there is still nothing there. And so if you have something here, yeah, you can boil it for a while in your mind, but you should not do that for too long. What you should definitely do is start to make a prototype of the thing, make a playable version, and start to play around it. Anything that you have at home, really. Yeah, sometimes, let's say when I'm at my mom's home and I don't have my prototyping material with me, I will use food to prototype my idea. Just a bit of rice, and I find some dry beans, and that's the money, that's the avatar. So you can simulate your idea with everything at home. So if you have nothing, get into the kitchen, find your find your stuff. Find some old play cards and stuff like that. Yeah, or I don't know, if you don't have a token, maybe there's a backgammon set at home. Just open it, take £2 and make them the tokens. So make the backgammon board your game board. Yeah. You can just say like, okay, the stripes will now represent this, or so anything really. Just prototype it, and make this a habit, not to spend too much time. But if it's if you have the idea and you have thought about it for a few days and figured, okay, probably this, that, there will maybe come a point where it wanders off in your mind. It goes somewhere, but it starts to be blurred for you. Maybe that's the moment where you really should start to make the prototype and see what really happens, instead of pretending what will happen. Let's put it on the ground, make it something solid. I think that's really important to visualize, to prototype your stuff. So prototype as early as possible, and test as early as possible, and see if the thing in your mind really is happening or not. A hands-on approach is therefore really important. Also in the studio, when you talk with your friends, etc., blah 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 blah, yeah, talk, it has no end. And the bad thing about talking is also one idea brings the other, and it has no end. But you cannot talk forever. Starting to make a prototype is also a good thing to stop something that has no end. So hands-on approach is therefore also, I think, very important. Then a final thing, almost final thing, is about, even if you're not inside it, you should learn your industry. It's really important to know who the people you will work with are, what a studio is, what a publisher is, what the game genres are. So basically, just finding out about what your industry is, how it works, what values or concept it is built upon. That's also very important, because ultimately, as a designer, you will fit in somewhere in that machinery, right? You will be a part that makes this whole thing work. And there are others like you. When you're fitted in, you will make that thing turn together with other people that fitted in there. And there are so many people involved in the process of making a game. So first, find out about process. Yeah, how does ideation, finding ideas, start? What steps is a game project going through, and ultimately, how does it arrive at publishing? What happens during publishing? That's the first thing, finding out about process. Second, find out about the roles or professions that are involved in it, because you will partner with these people. Often you think like, okay, I need a coder and I need a 3D artist, but then when you work with a publisher, you suddenly work with a creative artist, you work with user acquisition, you work with data experts. So a lot of people are involved there. So find out about these roles, and also what's important to them, what they expect from a design. All this will it will help you to understand what the whole thing is about, and how you can comfort others that you work with. um, or being on the same page with them, being on the same line. That's why it's so important. And there is one more thing that's for nowadays, I think. Today's game business, it's extremely data driven. Everyone makes decision based on data, on user data. So you should be aware of what people call KPIs, the key performance indicators like CPI, CTR, retention, play time, blah, 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 blah. A lot of concepts like that. But you should ultimately know how they are obtained, what they mean, and you can find a lot of information about them on the internet. If you just do a search like KPIs in mobile games, it will bring you a lot of websites. Actually, a lot of ad providers, providers for mobile games, they have their own websites with glossaries or dictionaries where they explain these terms. So you can find that very easy and get yourself familiar with these as well. And this last point is also something very important to it, something that I kind of mentioned before. You should learn to accept the results of user test data. Yani, what I mean with that is, in the industry, if the users don't like it, that's it, the project is over. You have to accept this. Yani, oh, it's a wonderful game and people are stupid, they don't understand the value of my idea and blah. Nothing like that. The test says, okay, that this will cost us $2 per person and we cannot afford it. Finished. Get over it, just start looking for a new idea. And that's that brings me to a final advice as a game designer. Don't look back. It makes no sense, to cry about the game that got rejected. Oh, 5 years ago they rejected my idea, and 5 years later you're still crying out. It makes absolutely no sense. Now we bury like 3 games a week, okay, but just because the data is not coming well, and you really work on these games seriously as if they are going to be published and spend so much time, and then comes the result, and the bosses say, okay, we dropped that project. That's it. So dropped. Okay, let's look for something new. You of course you can be sad for a while, and but there's no time for mourning here, really. You just say like, damn, it didn't work, and then keep going. What's past is past. So just move on to the next idea. The hyper casual business is very, it's like very liquid also. Then you make some ideas, they don't work, but next week the world has completely changed. People now like completely different things. So try your chance with that. So just look forward. Don't lose your energy. Don't get dragged into the past. Makes no sense. So these are the 7 steps that I talked about, that I said I would talk about. So I have a last bonus thing to say here. And that's basically like, what I mean to say is don't be a mean person in the business. And with that, I mean a lot of things. And with that, I also mean like, don't be narrow-minded. Don't think the world only exists or for you. Don't think the world is only populated by people like yourself. Like everyone thinks the way I think. and I am always right, etc. It's not. And if in game design you don't realize that the world is much larger than yourself, it really hurts you, because you will probably suffer worse results or bad results because of thinking you are the only reference point in the world. You are not, absolutely not. And no one of us is the absolute reference point in the world. We like to believe that. We like to find ourselves valuable, and we want our ideas to be appreciated, etc., etc. Not everyone thinks and feels the way we do. And it's really important to decentralize ourselves in that regard. So also this means we need to understand that even in our work environment, people act with very different priorities. So as a designer, I want this and this and this to happen, but my boss wants this and this to happen. My 3D modeler has a completely different view of the world because he sees things as models, maybe, basically. So everyone looks from different perspectives, different places, and we cannot assume that everyone is just like us. No one can read what's here in our minds, okay? And we cannot assume that this is the only camera from which the world can be seen. So basically, it means first that we have to respect our audiences. They can be very different from us. Second, we have to respect our co-workers. They can be very different from us. The audience, we are living on such a versatile and multifaceted planet. You move just 50 kilometers in a direction, and there is a totally different group of people practicing exercise in completely different things. So be aware of this. Be aware that the only players in the world are not males that are 20 males between 15 and 25 years. They are not the only audience in the world. Women are playing games. Everyone is playing games. So be aware that this is not only about making games for young male adults. We probably cannot stop that. There are so many things to point out the differences of the world population, but which includes like lots of languages, like 3,000 spoken languages on the planet, lots of cultures, so many different beliefs. So don't assume anything about who people are. They are probably something different than you imagine. And this is really very important. Also, keep in mind that things are relative. So you think like it's very cold here or you think like it's very hot right now because we're in the summer, but just on the other side of the planet, some people right now are experiencing winter, and you think like, what, winter? But it's winter for them. There are even places where summer never happens, where winter never happens. So be aware that people can have extremely different experiences. So yours is not the only frame of reference to the world. And maybe that's a good thing, because it's also good to be surprised to see how different humans can live their lives. And now also keep in mind, just with the thing that I said before, maybe your game will be simultaneously played by a 70-year-old woman in Paraguay and a 5-year-old boy in Vietnam. So, and in your mind, it's probably just an 18-year-old boy from the Middle East, but it is not your only reference. you don't know into how different hands your game can get. So don't assume, don't pretend, unless, of course, you have defined a target audience. When you have defined a target audience, then it makes sense. But otherwise, be open, uh, broad, think broad. And generally, also in the workspace, it's always important to be kind and constructive and to be positive, not feeling criticized, not feeling personally attacked when someone disagrees with you. That's really important, you know. I create like 10 ideas a week. And when I get into a design meeting, I have a lot of other fellow designers around, and literally the ideas, they get ripped into pieces. And it's really hard and harsh. But if you are like, they hate me, they don't like my ideas, they attack me, you cannot work like that. You have to just listen, you know, just listen what people have to say about it, and accept if they have a better idea, accept if what you thought was not really the greatest of ideas. So you just have to be open. No one's attacking you when they say, I don't like this part. It doesn't mean I don't like you. It just means something with the thing that you have presented does not seem to work for other people. So, and you know, I come with 10 ideas a week, but be assured that 80% of them are eliminated. And if I would think like, oh, they destroy all my ideas, then I cannot work. It's so normal that 8 out of 10 ideas will be eliminated because they're not good enough. And it doesn't mean you're not good enough. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about you. So that's also very important in this process. In this process, not to fight, not to get offended, not have some stupid paranoid ideas about how people hate you, and so makes no sense. It's part of the job to discuss, to get rejected. So be cool about it. Just move on. Just say, okay, it was rejected, so I have to find new ideas. That's the thing. So this is basically my last thing, not to be offensive, not to find yourself offended. And I hope you enjoyed or find it useful to hear about these 8 points that I believe will help you to become a game designer or a better game designer. So this was Altuğ Işığan from Izmir Joy Game. And my profile on LinkedIn is, as you can see here, if you do a search for Altuğ Işığan or for Altuğ, you will probably see find my profile. And please, let's get in contact. And I will be proud if some of you who are not yet in the business will be soon part of it. And if we can be then friends on LinkedIn, that would be really nice. It would make me proud. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a very nice talk. I think it was useful for all of us, not only students. Cool. I really enjoyed it. Hope to see you in Q&A, and thanks for your time.
Sure. Yeah, of course. Goodbye. So thanks again for giving me this opportunity. Take care. Have a great event all together. Bye-bye. Take care. Yes.
Hello, Altuğ.
Hello, salam.
Salam.
I hope you're fine.
Thank you so much. How was the experience of listening to your talk is
It was very interesting. I want to thank the gentleman who did the translation, and this is very nice how he actually caught all the expressions and my thoughts, etc. So it was very nice. Of course, we have a lot of common words
yeah.
in Turkish and in Farsi, so I understood
Oh, really?
some of them, but it was a very nice, interesting. I came a bit late. I wish I could have listened to all of it, but it was very nice. I'm very thankful to the gentleman for the translation. It's very good. Thank
It's
you
your
very
kindness. So
much.
it's nice to have you in Q&A session. So I have some
Mm,
questions here from participants.
yeah, sure. Mm.
First one is which universities in Turkey have game design,
Mm,
and
okay.
is
Mhm.
there any specific
Mhm. Mhm.
conditions to enter study?
Okay. So meanwhile, there are a couple of universities now. I can name a few of them. There is in Istanbul, there is the Bahçeşehir University, where I used to work for. I think it's a very nice place. Not because I worked there, but generally my impression is that it is really one of the best faculties you can find, not only in Turkey, but I think it has a good standard. I would say it's very close to some of the better European universities, for example. So Bahçeşehir University in Istanbul is good. They have a program at the Bilgi University, which is
Which
I think
universities? Sorry, I didn't.
Bilgi,
Bil-
Bilgi. Bilgi, huh? I can just text it if you want, or I can give it the name later to you.
Okay,
So,
okay.
so in Istanbul, you have these places. I'm not so sure if they have now a program in Ankara at one of the universities, but there is METU, Middle Eastern Technical University, and they have a game program at the an informatics institute. And I think METÜ is really a very well established, one of the best universities in Turkey. But it's a bit more technical oriented. So if people are interested in graphics programming, for example, I would recommend to get there. Then in Izmir, we have some universities that they do not really have a game program, but they have, how do you call that? They have secondary paths in the overall education system. For example, there is the Izmir University of Economics, and they have the computer engineering and software program. But when you start to study there, after a certain, I think after the sophomore year, you can actually have as a side path, you can have game programming and game design. I'm just trying to remember right
I think
now.
that's a lot now because I want to translate like shortly. So
Okay.
let me go for
Okay.
it. ام، اولین چیزی که گفتن خود آلتو تو دانشگاه باغچه‌شهر درس میداد و گفت به نظرم یکی از دانشگاه‌های خیلی خوبیه که میتونن توش درس بخونن و نه به خاطر اینکه من اونجا درس میدادم ولی استانداردهای خیلی نزدیک به دانشگاه‌های خوب اروپایی داره. بعد یه دانشگاه فکر کنم بیلگه، حالا قرار شد اسمشو برامون بنویسه، اونو گفت. و توی یه دانشگاه MTU که گفت یکم بیشتر تکنولوژیکه و یعنی فنیه و اگه کسایی که میخوان به ساید فنیش بیشتر نزدیک شن میتونن از حالا شاید اونا براشون جالب باشه. و توی ازمیر هم حالا فکر کنم ما نداریم، شاید هم داریم، من نمیدونم، ولی اینطوریه که میتونی بری مثلا 2 سال کامپیوتر بخونی بعد کنارش بیای فکر کنم سکند پتت رو بیای مثلا گیم انتخاب کن. فکر کنم که بس باشه. We can go to the next question. And okay, next question is asking about some website you mentioned in your presentation. So I'm going to ask it later because
I
maybe you
can't
cannot
remember
remember.
which.
So
Probably it's Gama Sutra. It's a game-related
yeah,
it's a
maybe.
game-related website. So they have this funny name, Gama Sutra. It starts with G.
Yeah, I can
Game.
write it down here.
Yeah, and it's it's a very good website, I think, because a lot of professionals, people who make games, probably people who make games that you play on your PC or on your PlayStation, they share their experiences there. They have blogs, they have featured papers, and I used to learn a lot from this place when there were no books about game design yet. So the website is like 22 years, I think it's almost 25 years old. They have articles from 1998.
تحقیق شروع شد.
Art and business of uh, game design, I think.
اوکی. گفتن که یه وبسایت گاما سوتراست که الان فکر کنم ادمینمون براتون میفرسته. And sorry for this interruption. که گفتن که این وبسایت حدوداً 25 ساله که کار میکنه، اخبار گیم و از اون موقعی که خیلی منابع زیادی نبود جای جالبی بود که بتونی ازش برین و استفاده کنی. And
Yeah.
the next one is if someone already has had some education and studies in design, but now want to just enter to work in hyper casual, what should consider? I think that's the beginning of your talk.
No. I think it's always useful to have studied something, because there is this perspective that you get when you basically get an education at university. But if you come from any design background, that could be industrial design, it could be architecture, graphic design, I think that's always useful, because later when you get into game design, you will probably use a lot of the concepts that you have learned there. You will use them in game design as well. So what they could do is they should, of course, get some books on game design, should visit some websites on game design, and should start to educate themselves a bit about this. And together with the knowledge that they already have, it will kind of support each other. So they will have, I think, a good starting point to enter design. And if they meanwhile make some games and have a portfolio of games, and I said it already in my presentation, it could be really any kind of game. It doesn't need to be digital at all. So having some sort of a portfolio, something that we can show people, that would be helpful. Yani, beyond that, it's of course when you want to enter hyper casual, it's always good if you know about, if you play a lot of hyper casual games, if you know what games are in the top chart, because that will be your job. You will be following trendy games all the time. And in my daily life, it consists basically of playing every new game that comes out. Yeah, my phone is full with hyper casual games. I play the new ones every week, checking the charts. But I also go back and play some classic hyper casual games to get ideas for mechanics. So if they know a bit about what kind of games are out there, that would also be a benefit. So and because hyper casual games have a style of their own. You may be a gamer, you like to play maybe PC games or PlayStation games, but here this is a different world. The games are on the phone, and you have to be used to play them. You have to be aware of the trends. Because once you start as a game designer in hyper casual, it's always about making the newest thing, finding the newest idea, being in the footsteps of the latest trends. That's really important. So I think having a knowledge of which games were hits in the past 1 or 2 years, that would also help you to land a job in the hyper casual industry. Of course, if you have made a hyper casual game in some way, even if it's not published, maybe it's just on the store, but that's also good for you because you can directly show it. I tried to make this game.
Yeah, I think
When you,
that's something
yeah,
participant can try in this 3 weeks
yeah,
game
yeah,
design.
yeah, of course, yeah. And taking a game that's already known, and if it matches their skills in design, in graphics, and in programming, they could make some sort of a remake of it, maybe shifting the theme a bit, but using a mechanic that is established is a good idea, especially when you try to do it for the first time.
اوکی ترنسلیشن.
Yes.
خب سوال این بود که لطفا ازشون بپرسید کسی که مطالعه داشته و میخواد تازه کار حرفه‌ایش رو شروع کنه چه نکاتی رو باید مد نظر داشته باشه. گفتن که خب همیشه خوبه که یه تحصیلاتی داشته باشیم، مثلا اگه که حتی طراحی صنعتی خونده باشین و وارد گیم دیزاین بشین و این که از یه بک‌گراندی بیاین خوبه، و این که میتونید بعدش گیم دیزاین رو هم مطالعه کنید در موردش، حتی یک پورتفوی داشته باشین. ولی اینو دوباره راجع به ترند و اینا صحبت کردن که بازی تاپ چارت رو فالو کنین، بازی کنین. مثلا گفت من خودم توی موبایلم یه عالمه بازی هست، ترندا رو دنبال میکنم، همچنین میرم بازی کلاسیک رو همیشه بازی میکنم. اینو باید در نظر داشته باشین که بازی هایپر کژوال استایل خودشونو دارن. شاید شما پی سی بازی بکنید ولی باید حواستون باشه که این بازی ها خب متفاوتن، مثلا روی موبایلن، خیلی با ترندا تعریف میشن و با جدیدترین چیزا، با جدیدترین ترندها همش با اون انگار دارن خودشون رو تعریف میکنن. بنابراین خیلی این مسئله مهمیه که به این خودتون نزدیک کنید و اینکه بسازین یه چیزی. اینو آلتو اول ارائهش هم میگه من اولین پیشنهادم اینه که یه چیزی بسازید و اینکه یه چیزی بسازید. حالا تو همین ایونت 3 هفته‌ای هم که خواهیم داشت فرصت خوبیه که این پیشنهاد رو امتحان کنید. حالا در ادامه میگه که میتونید برید یه تم هیت رو انتخاب کنید، مکانیکش رو تغییر بدید یا مکانیک رو نگه دارید و برعکس. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And I think it's the last question. If we add story to hyper casual games, is it a good idea or no?
Okay, that's a difficult question. What we do in hyper casual is that we may have a story aspect, but normally we make it not as elaborate and deep as it is in PC games or in console games. The narrative, the story aspect, we keep it more at the surface. So, for example, when a character in a hyper casual game undergoes a transition from one state to another in terms of story, instead of telling it with dialogues and other things, we would usually just change the appearance of the character. So you try to tell the story aspect as visual as possible. It's you really have to do visual storytelling because you don't have time for long paragraphs. You don't have time for over voices. Yani, if the story, for example, is very simple, like in a hyperkit, if you eat this, you get a fat person. If you eat this, you get a slim person. So you don't tell this. Basically, the character walks over something that makes them fat, they become fat. The character walks over something that makes them thin, they become thin. So you tell that, you try to tell that all visually, and in the end, let's say they arrive at a point where they are too fat to go over that obstacle, then you simply tell it like that. You show them, okay, they cannot pass this thing because of their weight, and that's all. So you keep it very visual, but it depends sometimes on the game genre. There are recently some text adventure games, hyper casual games, but they are text adventures, which basically means everything is based on text. So there is a written textual element in these games, and they are usually games like, it's the story of a dog, it's the story of a cat, but the way they keep that stories is again very short. It's basically like as if you have a very short conversation on WhatsApp, you know. So a character says something, then you represent the dog, you write an answer, then you get a response. So it's basically like dialogue writing. It's very like as if it's a conversation on WhatsApp, on a text messaging device, and they structure the story in such a way that your response triggers a different answer. But we know this kind of dialogue trees, of course, from PC games, Skyrim, blah, blah, blah. There are so many games which have really extensive story trees. But here, the story trees are rather minimal and they are repeatable. So, for example, you play that scenario once with the dog and you die somewhere because you gave a wrong answer. You play again until you get it right, and then it throws you into another scenario. But the scenarios are short. They are usually 1 minute scenarios because 1 or 2 minutes, let's say, because the format does not tolerate longer levels. Levels are usually not longer than 60 seconds. So even if you make a narrative-based story and make it progress with text, you still have them very short, very to the point. There is not much space for very deep revelations about the character. It's more like again based on description of action rather than character.
Mhm.
So um, usually you avoid any text, etc., and do your storytelling visually. And if you do it in the textual version, you normally cannot describe the character and stuff like that much. You keep it very abstract, very shallow, and it's more action based. So that's how it works basically in hyper casual.
Translation. خب
Okay.
سوال این بود که اگر داستان رو وارد هایپر کژوال کنیم این پیشنهاد خوبیه. که آلتو جواب داد که ما داستان داریم توی هایپر کژوال و نراتیو داریم ولی خیلی سطحیه، خیلی شلوه و مثل PC یا کنسول نیست. خیلی چیز جالبی گفت که بیشتر چیزا ویژوالن و ما سعی میکنیم که ویژوال تغییر بدیم. مثلا اگر از یه مرحله به مرحله دیگه میریم، مثلا نمیگیم اینو بخوری چاق میشی یا اینو بخوری لاغر میشی. مثلا اگر که از یه جا بره به یه جای دیگه چاق میشه، یا یهو میبینه که دیگه نمیتونه از این مرحله رد بشه، یا مثلا صد جلوش ایجاد شده که یعنی ویژوالی این رو میبینه، چون انقدر تایم نداریم که اینا رو بخوایم توضیح بدیم. اما بازی هایی هم هستن که متن دارن و مثل داستانی ممکنه باشه توی مثلا یه مکالمه توی واتساپ که یا یه دیالوگ محور باشن، اما اینا هم مینیمالن، خیلی کوتاهن و ممکنه در حد 1-2 دقیقه باشه. ببخشید اگه که من یه جاهایشو ممکنه دیگه یادم رفته باشه. و اینا رو سعی کرده میشه که to the point و کوتاه نگه داشته بشن. I think that's all, but I have a final question. That's my
Okay.
question. I'd like to know that regarding game design and theme, is there a trend that you like to mention that like this kind of theme is going trendy this year, and you like to mention?
Um, well, that's always a bit difficult to tell. There are yani, when we try to classify the themes, we sometimes talk about all-time hot topics. Okay,
Yeah.
so for example, food is always all-time hot topic. Gym, fitness, workout, exercise, they are always all-time hot topics. But then we have the more seasonal topics. So let's say when spring comes, for example, you see more games about going out, bicycles, uh, or some genres they are a bit more popular when fall or spring comes. So maze puzzles, people play them more in the winter times. When spring comes, you see a lot of games about cars, driving, which you normally maybe don't see so much in the winter season. So it's a bit like this. As themes, I would say for this year, one thing is, of course, following the trendy games. So I think what will happen in the next 6 months in terms of mechanics, and in maybe the themes may change, but mechanics are also important. So probably in the next 6 months, we will see mechanics that are mostly a marriage of two successful games. So there will be, I don't know, an X mechanic, and in the other game there will be a Y mechanic, and we will see a game which has somehow managed to bring them together. Or we will see something like, let's say, the sniper mechanic is a popular mechanic. We will see this mechanic, but maybe it will be adapted to a theme of a game that was also very successful. Let's say a monster theme was very successful. Maybe they will come up with the idea where we have monsters with sniper guns. I don't know. Yani, it's
That's
possible.
nice.
But you know they really take from each other. But what we probably will see this year, because I heard that a new season of Squid Game, you know this TV
Yes.
series, the
Yes.
Squid Game, they have announced some new seasons for Squid Game, and actually they have now launched a reality show and a real game show where people play the games in Squid Game. So we will probably, for example, see some games about that. We will probably see some games about Game of Thrones, dragons. Will be probably one of the things used. There will be the Avatar film in December already. That will be, I think, for 2023, it will have an impact. The World Cup is coming, football World Cup. So I think around October, start of November, we will see a lot of games about football coming out. And beyond that, of course, in hyper casual, your main audience is a bit the United States. Because it's the most lucrative market. So when you look at what's going on in the United States, you see that elections are coming. You see that there are a lot of discussions about gun laws, about abortion, about gas prices, about inflation. So games that somehow manage to address, for example, I don't know, to deal with a car while the gas prices are so high, or just games about how you spend less while buying a lot of things. Naturally, these are topics that are of interest to people because it influences their daily lives. But these stories or these themes, they will of course not be directly used. They will be hyper casualized by being fitted into certain mechanics that works in the hyper casual space. And if designers don't really find a way to hyper casualize these themes, then these themes
One
will
word.
not appear, or very metaphorical. But as I said, Yani, we have the long-term trends, we have the social trends. Social media is very important. What people like there, generally. For example, recently they do now stupid things on TikTok where people slap each other with tortillas. I think, so you never know, because there was a game called Slap and Run, just a few months ago. So maybe someone will just say, okay, let's do this with tortillas, or I don't know. So everything can really happen. But I don't know if this was a satisfying answer.
Yeah, it was a lot. So give me some time to translate.
Okay.
خب پرسیدم که از منظر نگاه خودش به عنوان دیزاینر اگه بهمون بگه که چه چیزی ممکن ترند بشه تو زمینه تم، که تم رو بهمون توضیح داد که سیزناله و مثلا یکم که هوا گرم میشه دوچرخه سواری یا مثلا فشن یا حالا اگه یادم رفته که به بزرگیتون ببخشید، اینا یکم میاد بالا. ولی توی مکانیک یه چیزی رو که گفت برام جالب بود، گفتش که مثلا بازی مکانیک ها با هم تلفیق میشن احتمالاً، که مثلا یه بازی اسنایپری رو ممکنه با یه مکانیزم دیگه ای تلفیق کنیم، یا اینکه مکانیک های یه مکانیک ترندینگی رو با یه تمی که ترندینگ شده اینها رو با هم ببینیم، که اینم فکر کنم توی ارائه های قبلی هم باز فکر کنم برکم به این موضوع اشاره کرد که این دوتا چیزی که باید در کنار هم ببینیم. و باز یه موضوعی رو که بعد به چیز اشاره کرد، اسکوید گیمز، که اسکوید گیمز هم میاد و یه رئالیتی شو داره و اونجا احتمالاً آدما میان اونجا با هم بازی میکنن و توی رئالیتی شوشون و اون میتونه یه موضوع جالبی باشه که از روش ایده بگیرین و بازی بسازین. جام جهانی رو داریم، اینم چند بار اشاره کردن توی تاکای این روزا. و یه موضوع جالبی که گفت که اکثر مخاطبای هایپر کژوال تو آمریکان، پس حواستون به سوشیال ترند آمریکا باشه و مثلا اگه انتخابات، سخت جنین، نمیدونم بالا رفتن قیمت گاز، اینا توی آمریکا الان مسئله است، اینو باید هایپر کژوالایز بکنیم. یعنی نه که بیام همه اونو صاف بذاریم توی بازی و این مسئله مهمیه، به صورت استعاری اون رو باید توی بازی به کار ببریم و اگه که این اتفاق نیفته اون بازی کار نمیکنه. فکر میکنم یه مثال خوبی رو که برگ زد، اون بازی Berg had a good example here about this hyper casualize the game about Amber Heard and Johnny Depp
Yeah,
game.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a good example here. Uh,
yeah.
uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's important. For example, and when a trial like that gets so important, you may expect that in a certain time, judgment games, for example, will be on the rise, or relationship games, where maybe you just play out the scenes of a bad relationship. I don't know. So these kind of things can happen, and they are a genre of its own. So when certain social events happen, it can be that a certain genre is triggered again, and you see a lot of games about this genre. So yes, Amber Heard and Johnny Depp is a very good example.
آره گفتن که وقتی که یه همچین مثلا اتفاقایی میفته یه اون بازی های مثلا نمیدونم جاجمنتال یا بازی های مثلا ریلیشنی و اینا یه ترند میشن. Okay, I think that's it. Do you want
Okay.
to add something or do you think something is left?
No, I'm very happy to be here for the invitation, and it was very nice to meet you all. And I hope that the audience found pleasure and something useful in my speech. So I hope that we can see each other in the future again. I want to thank the translator again for the very lively translation that he made is very nice. And beyond that, teşekkür mikonam.
Thank you. And I think participant will see you in mentorship sessions as well. So
Okay, yeah, sure.
thank you
Exactly.
so much.
We're not finished. I thank you all. Thanks for
Goodbye.
being here.
Teşekkürler.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Teşekkür mikonam. Bye-bye.